Hey everybody, Jay Niblick here, and I've got with me.
Bryan Arzani.
So for those that haven't seen any of these before, and for the obnoxiousness of doing it over again for those that have, my name is Jay Niblick. I'm the founder and CEO of Intermetrics International. Bryan Arzani is the president of Intermetrics, and so we're coming out with these educational contents to kind of share the same stuff we do with all of our consultants around the world. 15, I think total count was 1750. I'm in about 52 countries. So we help these people grow profitable practices. That's what it's about. We've got tools and tips and things like that. But in the end, it's really about one objective. How do we help independent business consultants establish and grow a very successful slash profitable slash insert your definition of success, I should put here. So this is a continuation of the last topic we just talked about, where we always say problem, cause, solution. That's our mantra. This is how we deal with our clients and what we teach our consultants to do. The problem for you guys out there is you're stuck. You can't kick it up to the next level of profitability. You're hitting the ceiling, you're working yourself maxed out, and you're still not creating any more revenue or success. So one of the big things we see that we talked about on that last call, which you should go watch before or after, will be fine, is thinking small, and a whole bunch of iterations on thinking small. So we talked about a variety of topics you can listen to. We do these for 20 minutes. And that's all you got, 20 minutes, because if you've got an hour to listen to more educational stuff, the one reason why you're not making enough profit is because you got an hour to listen to this shit. So we're going to stick to 20 minutes. That's all you get. The clock has just started. So here we go. Bryan, what were some of the other causes of thinking small, or examples of that is why I'm not making the revenue that I should be?
You know, Jay, what's wild is when we have this opportunity to work with so many different types of consultants within Intermetrics. You know, we're supporting folks that have, traditional industrial counseling businesses. We've got folks that are doing nothing but white collar, high-end office. We've got folks that do blue collar coaching and counseling, consulting. It is what's really cool is folks come and go, what kind of consultants do you really work with? You know what? We don't have a type. What we have is folks that have done it, experienced a little frustration. They're saying, man, how do I ignite it? So to your point, what's another one of the problems is sometimes their vision or that belief of what type of client they should have is not the type of client that they really require in order to get what they really want. And so it really kind of boils down to raising their expectation of what type of client they should be attracting and looking for.
All right. So we're talking about stop thinking small and
Yep.
think big. And we talked about your hourly rate being too minuscule, your scope being too small, your belief in yourself being insufficient. You're turning this around on the client. Am I paraphrasing correctly? Maybe one of the reasons you're thinking small or acting small is because your client is thinking small. Is the client pigeonholing me into, I just need a 4-hour training. I don't want to fix the organization. I don't want to fix the big problem. I need to just check a box that says, did you go out and get a trainer for the sales staff? Yes. Boom. I'm thinking small from the client side. I'm going to try to force you to think small. What are some examples of non-small thinking clients? I mean, what's a better client? It doesn't make me have to go small to get through their little door.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And let's frame up and define what the word small is right now. See, it's not about size. It's about
No.
challenging the exactly.
Organization size, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
no, not at all.
Yeah, it's about finding clients that think big or teaching clients that have a broken paradigm of how they perceive our industry. And so when we talk about, bigger clients, it's helping to challenge the way that they perceive the medicine or the physician or the assistants, because every one of them have this thing inside them that says we want something different, whether it's better performance, better people, better execution. They all have this feeling, and where they go, and this is what we teach our consultants how to do, is we teach them how to discover what is the paradigm or framework that this company is using to go to market to try to find a solution. And if they think small and we want to fit into that pigeonhole, then we're going to act small. Sometimes it's about getting that client to think bigger. And if they don't want to think bigger, then for us to attract better clients, we've got to be attractive ourselves. And so as we talked about last session about changing our belief system, expecting, and what would you become if you had to be, but it's really getting that client to kind of walk back into it and go, you know what? We really think that training, or we really think that coaching, because they're going to use whatever feels comfortable to them to solve the issue they have. But what are we? Are we the one that, like you, like, I love your medical examples. You know, you show up and go, hey, I've got a pinch here between L3, L4. I got some time tomorrow between 1 and 3. You want to fix that for me? You know, over the noon hour. When was the last time a physician ever allowed the patient to tell them exactly how they were going to go about fixing the issue that they had?
Well, and that's a good point. Thinking small, I don't see myself as a physician. If I'm that consultant and I'm playing the role that we've seen so many times from these consultants, who am I? I didn't go to the more advanced schooling than anybody else with a career on the planet. I'm not this guy or that guy. You're in trouble. If you're out there as a consultant, you have to be seen as the authority, which means you have to believe you're the authority. The reason physicians or attorneys think they're the authorities is because they went through tons and tons of formal education. And then of course the world says, oh my God, you're a God, you're on a pinnacle, you're great. Whatever you're doing, you've been doing this in business for years. Most of our consultants have come out of 10, 15, 20 years of business. And they say, I'm tired of this. I want to go out and be a management consultant. I want to train on HR or team building or help salespeople. You are the authority. So when someone comes to you wanting to make you small, it either is they're seeing you as a small thing and they're attracted to you. They're like, I'm a trainer. That's all I do. I just do team building workshops. $5,000, you can have up to 20 people. I'll do a team building workshop. My mentality has to be the thing that changes first to say, I can provide any of that stuff, but that's not what I am. That's not who I am. The biggest tip I think we could give is you solve problems. You have to take this medical analogy with you every day, in my opinion.
Yep.
Every day we solve problems. Somebody comes to us and says, this hurts, fix it. I have to start by saying, what really is the big problem here? That's why we teach problem, cause, solution, because we were forced to do this, by the way, world, because we saw so many people who would run out and just show up and throw up. From my old J&J days, that's how we were, we would see guys that say, yeah, I'm just going to show up and throw up. We would sell solutions. Here's your solution. Here's this guy's solution. Here's that solution. You don't know if they need it or not. And it's unethical if you're a consultant who, like a physician, says, not just do no harm, but to improve the overall condition of the organization. As we always teach, that's your ethos. You're going to improve their condition, whether it's the division or the overall organization, or sometimes just the individual. But if they come at you with a little tiny doorway and say, here, squeeze through here, it's probably them. And so on the topic, and we'll wrap this up on better clients, you may not be able to fix them all, but your success is going to depend on, can I expand that door? Can I take that person who came to me and said, something small, we just want a little transactional thing. Can I pull their mindset wider and bigger and say, well, why are we doing this? Let's stop for a minute. But you, the consultant, are the one that has to guide this. Back up, Mary. What's going on as to why you want this? Let's discover if that's really the cause or not. That is the key. Not every one of the clients will do it. Many of those clients will go, nah, that's all we need. I asked 5 other people. If you don't want to do it, then forget you. Good, because the time you spend chasing that client being small is going to hurt you, and you're not going to generate the revenue you need. So we always, last thought, and I'll let you go. The worst things we hear in training is going around the room, introducing to our consultants, what areas do you specialize in? Who's your ideal client? And oh my God, I hate it. I've heard it so many thousands of times, and they're all struggling. Anybody with a pulse and anyone whose check clears. That's thinking little, that's like, wow. I mean, you want to go find your next spouse. Who is your ideal spouse? Anybody who will date me, I mean, have some self-respect, people. You can't, I know you're desperate and hungry for money, but walking out the door saying, whatever they want to give me, as little as it is, I'll take it, is a big, big mistake. And probably one of the reasons why you're capped right here.
So so if I'm a consultant right now, here's the question I'm going to ask if I'm you watching this. Okay, that's great. That's theoretical. How do I do it? So here's what happens. The moment they've identified that they're willing to talk to you because they have some sort of a need, here's how you slow it down. Resist the temptation to give them the ta-da solution and say, I've got that. Because if it was that easy, they wouldn't need you right now. Because part of what our role is in this process is to help them think bigger. So here's a couple questions. Write these down. So they say they want you to train on this topic, okay? Here's a great question. At the end of this time that we spend together, what would you like your people to be doing more of, and what would you like them to be doing less of? Write the question down. That's one way to get the conversation to go bigger. The second question, how long has this problem been going on? That's a great question. It gets expansion of discussion. Resist the temptation to go to solution. Third question, have you ever trained on this topic before? Follow up to that, how did it work? Right? And then here's the fourth question. What's different this time if they said they have trained on it before and they're looking for maybe a shot of Java or adrenaline, right? What are you hoping that would happen different this time, or what's changed since the last time? And then here's some other questions that you can throw in there, especially since we are all things talent. That's what we do, right? We measure more dimensions of individuals. So here's the real question. Are you confident that your people are capable?
Yeah.
Right? Do they not know how, or do they choose not to? So these are some practical things that you can put into play to maybe help your client that's thinking small about a transaction, which Jay just, transactions are not pathways to profitability, right? Those are just the oxygen that pays the bills. But
It's
how do
like
we get them to think bigger?
trading your time for their money. That's
Yeah.
all a transaction is. And we'll talk about this a lot in anything you have to do with us, and I'll shut up and get back to you. But remember that if you're in a transactional mode, you're trading your time for their money, and you better stop, because you'll always have to give them your time, and you're never going to get enough money to then make up for when you don't want to give them your time. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, well, and what we do is just pay bills, right? What we do is we teach our consultants how to create, like you said, we create revenue. Doing a gig is not revenue. That's just a transaction, and you get it, you pay the bills, and you go find another one. Revenue is giving you the oxygen to breathe in, to be a more effective product that is relevant and it's innovative. Here's another thing around bigger clients. Here's what we find among a lot of our consultants that we inherit from other testing platforms or curriculum platforms. They're positioned at the wrong level within these organizations.
Yep.
They're dealing with, maybe an individual at a lower level that has a budget. Jay, let me ask you this. You've worked with a lot of large, organizations and small organizations, but who within the organization has budgets? And is there a person within the organization that doesn't have a budget?
Well, the people I usually target are the ones that make the budgets for everybody underneath them. So the people I want to deal with don't have a budget.
There you go. And so that right there, folks, if you guys take one thing from this conversation, if you're working with people that are operating with budgets, then you're probably not working with large enough clients. Now, does it mean numbers again, right? We're talking about large means opportunity. Where is their vision for the organization? Do they see the strategy, and do they sense that there's problems? Because if they see the strategy and they're the ones that set the budget, then you're the one that gets to dictate. You're the one that gets to be spec'd into the engineering plan, right?
Well, again, in J&J, we learned Miller Hyman and a lot of other sales techniques. You're looking for the economic buyer. And the economic buyer is the person who has the authority and will cut the check, not somebody who's been told to. And we're not dismissing these people. A big mistake people make is they assume they're at the end of the road. They're like, oh, this is the person I got to talk to. If they're just seeking out to fulfill the orders of somebody above them who's the economic buyer, that means they actually say, check's going to go to Brian. Stamp, done, and sign it. You now have to realize, thinking small, that's the end user. Thinking big is, this is the person who's my internal advocate, but I've got to go up. I've got to go up the chain. Ideally, we'll teach a lot of techniques on how to start at the top. You're not targeting. You're seen as somebody that should be talking at this level. You're shooting for that level. So you've already made something of a mistake if you're stuck at this level, because you have to work your way up. So it's kind of like, this is tough. But we'll talk about other stuff like that. But the bigger,
I spent years there, Jay. It sucked, man.
I've done it. Trust me. Brian and I, by the way, we built 7-figure companies here. So we learned these lessons by screwing all of this up. Me personally,
my nose is flat. It's been kicked in so many times, dude.
Yeah, hundreds and hundreds of times. I mean, I was never the smart one that figured out after I screwed it up once not to do it the second time. I'm usually 5, 6, 7 in before I finally realized that this isn't working. But you know what? Here's the cool benefit of why we're so powerful at Intermetrics. It's a two-way street with 1,700 something consultants out there. Yeah. Who are those consultants? It's, if we stack back to the physician thing, I know everybody's nauseous about it, but you have physicians working with physicians. We have consultants working with consultants. We've learned some of these lessons from just the massive effect of the field saying, here's what I found that works. Hey, you know what? We're trying this and it works. we're all learning up and down in the organization. So as it's filtering up, Brian and I are here just feeding it back out to you guys, and you're not even a part of our organization. We'd love you to be, but it's not just pie in the sky stuff. These are things that we have learned from that wide array of consultants in many different countries. You walk in at this level, you just automatically set, you were thinking small. All I can talk about is this purchasing manager. Maybe I can get in with the training manager under the HR department, under this, think bigger organization, think bigger in the organization, and look for an organization that thinks big.
Yeah. You know what? I love your analogy you just shared, because here's one of the biggest frustrations for physicians today. They are so busy doing the work, which is what every one of the folks watching this webinar, they're busy doing the work. And one of the things you sometimes miss out on is, what's the new idea, or what's that one physician who just discovered an alternative way to treat this one issue? And that's what really we do here in Intermetrics. Jay's given me the freedom and the liberty to really kind of be the idea person who, not that I have the ideas, but we work with, of these 1,700, everyone is elite. We have a pretty strong selection process that says whether you get in or get out. But because we're so intimately involved in the how they go out and do it, we're abundant with sharing the different ideas. And in terms of helping you to have bigger clients and have just more consistent revenue, it's about different ideas that allow you to execute and apply those. And so as physicians talk about, back in the old days, they would have fax machines they'd read white papers on different ways that physicians found to treat certain ailments. And a lot of times doctors who were in the middle of a disease or a cancer that was so unique, they were constrained by their personal experience, and they went to these volumes. Google and a lot of these Microsoft are trying to figure out, how can we download and provide, these white papers so that doctors can be, faster time to market to be able to assist and do treatment on these unique things. Every single business out there is going to have a very unique individualized issue that doesn't require a standardized platform of, hey, here's the Band-Aid that came out of a shrink wrap, set of, materials. And so our process for helping you identify how to treat, right, and how to diagnose, like Jay always says, the person that identifies the problem earns the right to fix it.
Yeah, or the cause of the problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, bring that in for a sec. So in the Profitable Consultant book, which we've put together here at Intermetrics, that's the formula, the problem, cause, solution. That's one of the mantras of it. He or she who identifies the cause of the problem gets to fix it. That's thinking big. That's an illustration of the best example of, and just to elaborate on your answer to the question, how do I practically do that? Get them to think big. If they come to you with a solution, don't bring the solution. All right. Talk big picture. What's the problem? Right. If they come at you with a solution, can you sell? Can you train? Can you do this? Back up. Role play for 5 seconds. Yeah, I can definitely talk about doing sales training with your top sales managers all day long. But, if you really want it to work, I need to understand, what's the problem that you're trying to solve? That's it. That's the simplest question. What's the problem you're trying to solve in this training? And you'll uncover the small clients. I don't really know. They just told me that, we need to get training in for the sales managers. Okay.
Well, and resist the temptation to tell them the answers.
You're not the person that I need to be talking to, and you wouldn't say it that way, but cool, let's figure that out, because until we know what the problem is, just throwing a prescription at it's not going to necessarily work. So just this way of thinking is going to take you down a path of either you've expanded their view and made them go, wow, you're right. If they do it, you'll oftentimes find, oh, well, the big problem is we've got too much turnover. Now immediately starting to engage with you and talk. The big problem is they got too much turnover. These sales managers aren't getting the performance out of the sales reps that we need, and they got a lot of turnover. We can't keep them. I'm like, interesting. Sales training maybe this is where you become the authority and think big. Sales training may be a solution. I'll give you that. But having done this for 20 years and worked with clients all over the place, that's just throwing training at that isn't likely to cause the problem. Now you want to solve the problem, right? That's the big thing. Okay, well, let's talk about what are the most common causes of poor performance in salespeople, or lack of, or too much turnover.
So really what you're saying, Jay, is our role is to get them to think differently about their problem. And that allows us to create a bigger solution, bigger relation. Yeah, So
I can do it, but let's first talk about why. And that's where you'll have a gauntlet. They'll either come out and say, you're right. My God, we really want to figure out in the end, how do we get our salespeople to sell more? Or you'll get the guy that says, I don't care. That's not my department. I'm in HR. I'm actually a purchasing manager. I was told to go find somebody that can do sales training. We have 5 hours. We have 20 people and we can't spend more than $5,000. Can you do it? And you'll find out, finite, terminate, end. This is it. No. And I hope that you'll learn to walk away from those. If you've done everything, we'll teach you in other calls to try to expand that. Sometimes, however, you won't. And you have to be selective about the clients you use. But that normally works. Take the questioning and turn it around and bring them back up to the problem, following through on that, and then I'll let you close it out. When the person says, yeah, this is our problem. We have sales reps that aren't selling. So we assume that sales training will help that. You are the authority and you say, you know what, here's the number one reason why we see sales reps that aren't selling. They don't have the natural sales skills. They're call reluctant. They can't take personal rejection. They're not proactive. They're kind of reactive. They're furniture sales or car salespeople. Until you go up and knock on the door, they're just kind of standing behind the glass, waiting for you to pop your head in and say, I want a couch, but they're not proactively going out. And, it depends on the type of job. These are all things that we actually can measure. So before you spend $12,000 on sales training, wouldn't you rather let me give profiles to these sales reps to see if that's truly the cause or not? What's that going to cost? Nothing. I mean that. We'll show you how to use our personality assessments to say just what I said. And I'll take the job right now for $5,000 and do the training or the 12 or whatever you're going to spend. But what if we stop for a second? Let me do the profiles on these people, litmus test. Let me test them to see if it's these natural talents. Damn it. I hate when that happens. 20 minutes is up.
Goes fast, baby.
More time. Go sell some shit.